Hello, friends. So good to be with you today. I want to take just a couple of moments and talk to you about this election that we just come through. Donald Trump is now to become the president of the United States, and it has been a battle. It's been a fight. I don't know that in my memory, I've never seen anything quite like what has taken place in the rise of this man, Donald Trump. And here's the thing. I feel like it was time for him, because he has the ability to pierce through and break through these walls that have been put up for generations politically. He called it the swamp. I don't think he had any idea how deep and how dense the swamp really was. This was a mindset, is almost a religion. These people in the political arena that have used this political system for their own good for so very long, and they literally would kill you if you got in the way. And Donald Trump, he was one of those guys that I believe is a sign to break through that and to expose it. And that's really what's happened. We're seeing the venom of people rise right now. And it's not that that's new, that was always there. But what he's done is he took it out of the political arena, because he's not political, and he exposed it. He calls them to expose themselves, things that have been hidden, attitudes, dispositions, agendas, personal agendas, people who have literally become multi-millionaires off of the people and have taken advantage of and lied and manipulated. I mean, just they become horrible people. And his administration literally calls them to be exposed, calls them to expose themselves. And they hated him for it. They literally hated him for it. And so what we've done over this last 10, 12 years, what we've seen is we have seen the exposing of a nation that is in seriously bad shape. I was at a prayer gathering the other day, and I was talking, and I said, America is so divided right now. And I said, the soul of America is sick. The soul of America, it just needs to, it should be, or maybe used to be, I think it used to be, at a time where if you had a disagreement with somebody, well, I just have a disagreement with you. But now it's, if you disagree with me, I literally hate you for it. I do. And so what has happened is that the Trump administration has truly taken it out of the hands of the political machine, and he was able to do that because they didn't own him. He was able to come in as an outsider, as a businessman, and actually, that was one of the most refreshing things about him. Dear Lord, he's the only man in my lifetime that ever ran for office, or at least that office, that was not a politician. He wasn't owned by somebody. He wasn't a politician. He was a businessman. Not only was he a businessman, somebody said, well, I don't like him because he's mean. Well, you have to realize the way he was raised. I mean, his entire lifetime, he made his living arguing with and fighting with the New York Mafia. I mean, if that doesn't cause you to grow a thick hide and a sharp tongue, I don't guess anything will. That's just how he's always done business. And so when he came into the political arena to run for president, that's exactly, he hit him right in the mouth, just like he was talking to the mafia, and he hit him right in the, and they didn't know what to do with it. Those politicians were so caught off guard, they did not know how to respond to him. It terrified them. They were like literally a deer in the headlights. But he brought an authenticity to people that was very refreshing. It didn't feel fake. It didn't feel put on. It didn't feel rehearsed. It felt raw. It felt It felt real. It felt genuine. And so as a result, a tremendous move began to follow him. So I am not surprised at all as to the fact that the election went the way that it did. I believe that he was designed to do that in the beginning. Now he lost this last election, but I think probably the reason why I think there was a reason for that. I don't think that was. I don't think that was an accident, if I can say it like that. And I realize that may sound vague, but I think what has happened since the last time he was in, I think what he has to do now is different than what had to be done then. And it took part of the shaping and developing of who he was, all of the hardships that he went through, the battles that he went through, the assassination attempts that he survived from, all of those things that he went through. Don't think that hardship like that doesn't do something in you. It mellows you. He looks calmer right now than he was before. He looks more at peace. He looks more determined now. There's a maturity in who he is now that I think he did not have before. So I'm not sure that him losing the presidency 4 years ago probably wasn't a good thing, because he's had time to develop. The nation had time to develop, to expose the things that were there. Now, when he comes in, he's going to be dealing with things that are going to be much clearer than they were before. So I am not surprised at all that this presidency went the way that it did, because once people saw how extreme everything was, they would say, I'm ready for a change. That's why we absolutely had a landslide. And it wasn't just that it was Kamala Harris. It was the fact that society had become so pathetic, so dangerous, that everyone could see it. And they're thinking, I don't want that. Now, the extreme left, and this is something that even the Democrat Party, they were hijacked by another group, a religious group, if I can say it like that. The extreme left, the woke group, is like a religion. It really is. They are the Taliban of the Democrat Party. I mean, there's someone who takes things to the absolute extreme, and they were in control. It was undercover. People didn't realize it, but they were in control. They were running things. They were running things behind the scene. And so what's happened over this last, 8 years, 9 years, that's been exposed. All of that was hidden now has come out, and now we can see it, and people are repulsed by it. And that's why the election has taken on the incredible win that it produced. The extreme woke group pushed the pendulum so far that they almost had no place else to go. It was so extreme that people were just saying, I see that, and I don't want that. I mean, you can see the gender ideology where they literally, we're trying to reassign children's gender, and all of you know about the boys and the girls' bathrooms and the boys and girls' sports, but there's so much more. That's just a few things that we see. But it was all exposed, and society will allow extreme for a while, but they can't live there. And see, they know that. Society can't live. Even you yourself, you can't live in the extreme. You may go visit the extreme, but you can't live there. You just can't. And society is looking for normalcy. They want to feel normal. They want to feel, even if they say, I hate that, they want normalcy. And especially when you have such a broad group of people. From every walk of life, from every group, you need normalcy, because that makes everybody meet in the middle. I think it's just the way that God planned it to be. Everything had gotten so incredibly out of balance over the last few years, spiritually, physically, socially, financially. It was like it was almost like everything felt strained. it just felt hard. It felt strained. I was never comfortable with it. It was like the tension was always to the absolute extreme. We had riots in the streets. We had criminals that were being released from prison. The streets, beautiful cities that were absolutely nothing but street people dumped out there with drugs and every kind of mess that you can think of. And then all of the mess with the border. I mean, there was a cry for just common sense. There's just a cry for, meet me someplace in the middle of the blooming road, please. And so that's, I think, where society was. And I think this election was set up, I think, as a God thing. I really do. I think it's a God thing. I think that Donald Trump was set up a long time ago, and he was assigned for this task to make this difference, to not just give us a good economy, but to uproot toxic things that we see in government, that we see in society, the greed, the impurities. He literally has the ability to uproot that, and of course, in doing so, he's been labeled as the most horrible thing that you could imagine. And I mean, it's just like people are losing their absolute mind, and they hate him. You know, I talked this last Sunday, I was talking about the progression of hate, or rather the progression of anger. And anger simply is not breaking things. Anger is just the emotional adrenaline that enables you to step beyond what you normally would and fix something. The Bible says, be angry and sin not, and don't let the sun go down on your wrath. And wrath is consequences. And so anger shouldn't last a long time. It's not designed for that. It's just for a quick fix. But when people can't fix something, they become frustrated, which is where many people have been. They become frustrated. First they're angry, then there's frustration. Then when they're frustrated and they still can't fix it, it turns to rage. That's when they start yelling and breaking things. And so after rage comes bitterness. Now bitterness comes, you've been thinking about this, you're processing this, and when you meditate on something, it grows roots. That's why the Bible talks about the root of bitterness. You meditate on something and you grow root system in that, and you become bitter in it. You can't get rid of it. And it produces something toxic in you. And that bitterness turns then to hatred. See, you gotta know that's the toxic part of it. It turns to hatred, but it doesn't stop there, because then hatred turns to evil. So you've got it where it starts with anger, frustration, bitterness. After bitterness, let me think. What was the fourth one that I had there? I have anger. I have frustration. I have rage. I have bitterness. I have evil, or rather, I have hatred, and then I have evil. Please forgive me. I don't have that written down. So, but that's the process, isn't it? And that's kind of where society's become. There's so many things they couldn't do anything about, and they just became bitter in it. They couldn't fix it, and so what they ended up doing is they just ended up turning to hate. And then you look at people, how bad they've become, and they become evil. You know, I was looking at the situation when Donald Trump was shot. The insensitivity toward that. I mean, do you realize how big that is? That someone right before our eyes that is running for the president of the United States of America, I don't care what side of the lane he falls in, but that someone takes a rifle and is going to shoot him in the head, and he turned his head just enough and it clipped his ear, blood was running down his face. And I heard people make statements like, well, you know, maybe that fellow needs to go and become a better shot. I mean, see, when you start going there, you've left the arena of hatred and you become evil. And that's all there is to it. And this is something that should not be. We should never allow that in our hearts, and we should never allow that in our minds. And if you listen to people, they'll pull you to one side or the other. But you shouldn't go there. There's the common sense, which is not that common, should pull you to the place that I can disagree with you without hating you. I can disagree with you and you still be my brother. I can disagree with you and you're still my neighbor. See, that's healthy. But when you come to the place that I literally can't even talk to you, I can't stand to you because you disagree with me, you're not healthy. I'm just telling you something, you're not healthy. Now, I want to talk about real quickly, and I won't take but just a moment in this, but I just felt like I just needed to just talk to you a little bit about what I felt concerning this election and our behavior that was attached to it. I mean, there's so many things that I could address, but I really only want to center on one or two things that I saw. I want to speak this to those of you that are in leadership, whether you're pastoring a church. I know that some people have said, you know, the things are so important. You need to get up in your pulpits and you need to say, this person is not good and this is the person we're to vote for. And I want to talk to you for just a moment about that. Public endorsements, telling people who to vote for. Now, I'm not saying that everyone can't do it. Some people can endorse political candidates, but there are some that can't. There are some that shouldn't. For instance, let me explain. I am a minister. I pastor a church. I have people in my church that come from all walks of life. Some of them are Democrats, some are Republicans, some are independent, some are nothing. I'm a pastor to all of them. I'm not a pastor to a few of them. I'm a pastor to all of them. And as a minister, I don't endorse candidates, and I don't let people endorse candidates from our podium, from our pulpit. I don't allow that. The reason is because I have an obligation to all of them. I'm not interested in just getting up and drawing them out of my circle, which is exactly what ends up happening. I don't endorse candidates. What I do, I teach values. I teach and I say, this is what is right. This is what is good. This is the thing that we believe as a body. But I'm not going to allow myself to be manipulated. See, I see a lot of actors that have failed miserably. And I'm going to tell you something pitiful. They fail miserably because what they've done is they've been drawn in to endorse a candidate. Stop and think about it just for a moment. I've got actors that I have watched, and I watched them how they behaved in this election, and I'll never watch them again. I've seen some of these actors that I have. Now, somebody say, why? Well, the reason is because I invited them into my home. I told my children that they were okay. I embraced them. I made a place for them in my life in which I don't do to everybody, but a few actors that I really loved, that I just enjoyed what they did. I embraced them. I brought them into my home. And then for them basically to turn after I've embraced them like that and spit on what I value feels like a betrayal. An absolute betrayal. It's much more than something that I just disagree with you. It is a betrayal to me as a friend. You betrayed a friend. I brought you in my home. I told my family you were all right. And now what you basically have taken my values and what I hold and spit on them. Are you kidding me? Suddenly I become alienated from them. Well, I trusted them. That's the same way with me as a pastor. You kind of understand. They trust me. All of them do. And I'm not going to jeopardize my effectiveness in their life just simply to promote a candidate. What I promote is values. I'm going to say it's wrong for this to happen. It's right for this to happen. Our people aren't stupid. Don't think people are so stupid that they don't understand when you talk values, who you're talking about. But that's okay. I can talk values. I can do that. But I want to say, those of you that are ministers especially, and a lot of you, that's who I'm talking to probably mostly, don't be like these actors who have been pat on the back until they've been self-deceived. They literally think their opinion means something when it comes to the political arena. And so what they do is they step outside their grace. I remember some time ago, singers were getting up and promoting, and people were yelling, "Shut up and sing." I mean, people didn't want to hear about their political stance. They just wanted them to sing. I don't care what their political stance is. I just want them to act. Well, see, that's why you can't bring the political into certain arenas. Pastoring is one, acting is another, singers is another. The reason is because you become vulnerable to that person, and they become part of your family. You embrace them. They become a part of you. And there's genuinely a sense of betrayal whenever you turn your back on what they believe. And it's a shame, because I've seen so many times these actors that would spend 50 years building their career, and they in 15 minutes they would squander it and alienate half the population simply because they were backing a politician who under other circumstances wouldn't spit on them if they were on fire. What a loss that is. What a loss that is. And so you've got to understand that if you're going to declare things concerning who you're voting for, you can do it in certain arenas. You can do it publicly or privately. If somebody asks me who I'm for, I have no problem saying this is who I'm for and this is why. But when I get up and I'm in public, I'm not going to allow my platform to be compromised by anything other than the love of God and the teachings from the Word of God. I'm not going to allow it to be manipulated by that. And it too often is. Again, you're saying, well, you can't even tell who you would vote for. I'm not endorsing candidates. What I'm doing is teaching values. And I want to teach you about what is right. I want to teach you what I believe about abortion. I want to teach you what I believe about family, about safety, about responsibility. Not just to myself, but responsibility to those that are round about me. Respect for this, respect for that. Those are the things that we teach. And if we can do that, then we're going to see a generation rise up. And then it isn't just that I like this fella because suddenly we're voting because we have values. That's the foundation for what we're doing. So there's a lot of things that have to do with that as to how we should respond, because I'm very concerned about the hatred, the sharp words, the bitterness that has been exchanged from the Republicans to the Democrats, and from the Democrats to the Independents, and it's nasty. It's not good. And now that we've got this election behind us, you need to look for ways that you can come together. Don't have to prove your point. That's not going to change anything. You don't have to. Sometimes you can win the debate and lose the election. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes you can prove your point and lose your friend. And it's not worth that. Now, there are times, obviously, you need to draw a line in the sand. But most of the time, people are just arguing. And you don't need to do that. So as we're dealing with this election, I just want to say to you, use common sense in how you present yourself. Don't allow yourself to be separated from those that are around you. Learn to get along with those that you disagree with. Matter of fact, even the Bible, we could just go and say it like this. The Bible says, pray for those who despitefully use you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely. Are you kidding? How do you do that? Well, I'm going to pray for them. They draw me out of their circle. I'm going to draw them into mine. Somehow, you've got to come to the place that you don't allow the sickness, the soulish, that our soul has been sick. You don't need that to continue until it affects your future. I believe with all my heart that this is a God thing. I believe that Donald Trump is the president now because God put him there. God raised him up, and I believe that the American people saw the need for this. I think they were ready for legitimate and genuine change, and I'm going to pray for him every day. I believe with all my heart that God wants to bring our nation up to a place, and I believe Donald Trump is the person that's going to help bring that to pass. But that being said, what do we do with one another now? And we need to find ways that we can reconnect, find ways that we can find common ground. And somewhere you're going to have to, you don't compromise on your values, but you might compromise in areas where you don't have to prove your point. Sometimes you have to yield. It's okay to yield because you are more important than my determination to prove I'm right. There are times when you need to prove you're right, but like I said a while ago, most of that's just arguing. So I just wanted to spend some time talking to you. There's 100 different directions that I could go with this. I was concerned by the celebrities, the singers, the musicians, the actors, the ministers who were placing themselves on the line in ways that hurt them more than help them. I want you to be smarter than that. Your life is too important, and you don't need to cripple yourself for the next 4 years because you disagree with somebody. Let's try to make this as valuable and as effective as we possibly can as we move forward. So find some agreement, find some unity, find some closeness. Get the chip off your shoulder. If somebody says something to you, forgive them. Let them go, because you are too important to be sidelined over a political disagreement. Keep your head in the game. We have things to do, and God has a plan for you. All right? So come on. I want you to let's pull ourselves together and let's go for it. All right? I'll see you this next time. Bye-bye.